Well, good afternoon, everyone. Shanti Payne, Assistant Director, the Office of Equal Opportunity at the Metropolitan Council. And I would like to call to order the January 2021 meeting of the DBE and Workforce Advisory Council, the Advisory Committee. And this is the first meeting of this committee under the Council's new format on WebEx. As we previously discussed, only committee members will be able to actively interact in real time. However, the move in the new format does provide greater access to the general public because anyone could have access and stream it live. And also it provides consistency across the council and our platforms in our advisory committee. Also, I just want to acknowledge that today, although we are scheduled to go to 4 o'clock, we need to end today at 3:45. There is another streaming council meeting. Unfortunately, the technology, as described, only allows us to stream one council committee meeting at a time. So hopefully we can get through our agenda today and fully, and everybody's information will be covered. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Salima to conduct the roll.
Thank you, Ashanti. We will start with the roll call. Checking in on buildings and trades, Barry or Jenny? Okay. Hennepin County, Gilbert or Eric?
Hi, Salima. Gilbert.
Welcome, Gilbert.
Thank you.
Next, checking in on NAMC, Marvin Smith. Okay. Next, Goodwill Easter Seals, I see Sheila Olson. Next, hired, Julie Brecky or John Clem. Okay. Next, Twin Cities Rise, Melanie Williams.
Julie is here.
Hi, folks. This is Julie. Yes,
okay.
Thank you.
Hi, Julie. Thank you. Melanie Williams, Twin Cities Rise. Next is Tony O'Brien. I see you from Summit Academy. Next is Higher Minnesota, Mel Reeves or Maura Brown. Okay. Next is City of Minneapolis, Dan Peterson or Leslie.
Leslie's here. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Leslie. Welcome. Next is John O'Phelan. I see you from Ramsey County. Next is MnDOT, Mary Schmidt or Sheila.
Hi, Sheila's here.
Mary. Hi, Sheila. Welcome. We see Krista from Lunda. Is Dale here? Anyone else from Lunda? Mary Elena? Or... Oh, was that you, Dale?
It's me. Can you hear me?
Okay, gotcha. Thank you. Okay. Yes, we can hear you fine. Katie, we see you from CS McCrossin. From APJV, we see Chris and Mike Tony.
Hello, everyone.
MDHR, we see Elaine. From the Met Council, we have Ashante, we have Sam, John, Mahad, Sai. Anyone else from the Met Council?
Yes, Mohammed Omar here.
We have Brian. Welcome.
Thank you.
Mohammed. We have Brian Renzel from the project office. And I see both Brian and Likanu from Ellis Black. Is Jeff here?
Jeff is not going to be with us today.
Okay, got it. Anyone else on the call that hasn't been called yet? I missed that?
Salima, this is John Tao.
What do our minutes?
Mel
yes.
reached out to me and said that He is trying to jump on right now. The link for him is not working, so he's going to be joining us as soon as he can get that together. So.
Thank you so much for the update. That's wonderful. Thank you.
You got me, right, Salima? Barb?
Yes, Barb, I've got you. Yes. I already have you.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Thank
Hi,
you, everybody.
Salima. I'm not sure if you got me, Melanie.
Hi.
From Twin Cities, right?
Yes, I got you.
Okay, good.
Thank you, Melanie. I got you now. I got you now. Yep.
And Salima,
we have our meeting minutes. Oh, okay. Wonderful. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Yep. Anyone else? Okay. So back to the handouts that John Tao had sent to everyone. The handouts have the meeting minutes in them. If you get a chance to please review them, read them, and let us know if you have any additions, any corrections, so that we can ensure that we incorporate your thoughts into them. You can email those to me or to Ashanti or to John Tao. Thank you. I'll go back to you, Ashanti.
Are we ready to move to the next item on the agenda?
Yes, we are.
All right. We're going to turn it over to Sam O'Connell from the Southwest Project Office. And I think she has some participants with her from the project office. And they're going to provide the project update.
Thank you, Ashanti. Good afternoon, everybody. This is Sam O'Connell with the project office, and I'm definitely wanting to share some news with this advisory committee. Last week, we have shared publicly that Southwest LRT, like a lot of our large-scale projects in the region and actually across the nation, is experiencing a bit of delay. So we wanted to share a little bit about what are the forces in our delay in terms of our project with you, and share with you what we know and kind of what we don't know at this time, and also what we're doing and how we can support you through this process as we begin to find answers and be able to share those answers with you. So today I've asked Brian Renzel, who is our Director of Construction, to kind of walk us through a little bit of what we do know, and then we can talk a little bit about how we move forward with that. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Brian.
Thank you, Sam. Yes, this is Brian Renzel, the Director of Construction for Southwest Light Rail. So this slide kind of says it that, we kind of talked to, or some folks were asking questions kind of about this at our last meeting that we had back in December. But yes, we went public last week with that we do have a project delay, and it's due to two pretty large new scope items for us. It's the corridor protection wall, and that corridor protection wall is in Minneapolis in the Glenwood area and runs down to Bryn Mawr. We also have a pretty big new scope addition over in Minneapolis in the Kenilworth corridor. It's a secant wall, and that has to do with we're changing the shoring system, essentially, that we were planning to install for the tunnel construction, and we're kind of modifying the tunnel wall adjacent to the Calhoun Isles condominium tower. And I'm going to talk a little bit more in detail about both those two things on subsequent slides. So I'll just say on this slide, what we're intending to communicate here is that we've got two pretty big scope items that are impacting this project, and that really are going to have an impact across the whole job. And like the slide says, what we don't know at this time is what the overall impacts are in terms of schedule and budget. I mean, we are actively working with the JV to try to determine that. There's a lot of moving parts when it comes to the costs associated with these things and with what the schedule impacts exactly are, and it's gonna affect the whole project. So so we don't know what those are, but our intent is that we're going to be continuing to work with the JV to figure it out and then communicate that once we do have our schedule and cost impacts known. So slide 5. Do I control the slides? No.
Hey, Brian.
Yeah.
This is Barb Lau. Just to make sure I have clarity on that then. So as you're working with the JV and the contractors on that schedule and the extra costs and how that's all going to be handled, will the contractor be in charge with talking with the smalls to find out what their impact is so that it can be accurate and we can kind of have an approval of what those change orders are going to be all the way down to the smalls?
Yeah, and I was going to get into that in a subsequent slide, but yeah, I mean, because the privity of contract is between the prime and the sub, so the sub has to work through the prime for those cost impacts. But DBEs do have a liaison with the OEO office, and so OEO will be involved with those discussions with us. But that because any change that happens will be done through the prime. I mean, that's how it works. But so yes, they'll work through the prime, and the OEO office will be involved with those discussions as well.
I appreciate that very much. That's great, and I just, of course, am making sure I know we're working with these primes already. So, and you guys are reporting to us. So, just making sure that you do take into consideration so it doesn't get changed ordered to the point where the only one suffering is the smalls. So, there's my 2 cents.
Yeah, the intent is no suffering, but
I know you want to move on and you plan on talking about this a little bit more, but just following up on what Bob said, you did indicate that these are large scope additions, and I just want to point out that it's not only the firms that are involved in the change order that are impacted by the change. So those that are probably outside of the confines of that addition of work could also be impacted, as a result of the release. So It has to be looked at comprehensively.
Yeah, of course, that's our intent. I mean, okay. So yes, I agree. I think I kind of mentioned this, but I mean, there are some project-wide impacts here, and so yeah, I mean, but maybe so we need to evaluate that. I mean, we'll need to work with the JV to gather information from the subs of what the impacts are, and then do an evaluation of that to evaluate merit. Thank you.
Okay.
So let me finish running through this, because I may get to some of the questions. It might be better if we can just hold questions till the end here, and then I'll take questions. So what are we doing about this? It's kind of what I said in the last slide, is that we're working with the JV to understand impacts and develop a new schedule. We've brought in some resources, some specialists from that have worked on a lot of large infrastructure projects like this that are going to help us evaluate schedule and evaluate costs as quickly as possible. We brought them in because it's kind of a big lift to incorporate these things into the schedule, and I think our goal is, well, believe me, we're going to be under pressure from all sides to try to nail down what the schedule impacts are as quickly as possible. I mean, our policymakers want to know, contractor wants to know, subs want to know, I want to know. So, we're not just relying on the resources that we had when we started this project. We've brought in some additional to try to help us figure this out as quickly as we can. We got the bullet on here where our intent is to ensure contractors are treated fairly. We are a government agency and we spend public money, so we have to do our due diligence to review what the claimed cost impacts are, but our intent is to treat folks fairly in that review process. We're going to work closely with OEO to make sure that we're addressing them as timely as we can, and that's what I said, that subs will be working with the prime LMJV, and OEO will be involved to make sure that things are happening in a timely manner. And then we'll keep coming to this committee with information as we learn it. So we'll keep you updated. Slide 6. So I was going to get into a little bit just to give folks some orientation about where these impacts are. So this is a slide that shows Minneapolis. This is, you can see 94 and 394 intersection there. So the corridor protection barrier wall it really runs it's that dashed yellow line there. That's the corridor protection barrier wall. It's a little bit under a mile and a half long, and one of the big challenges with this wall is that it's pretty constrained right of way. So the work area is it's a pretty tight sliver, and it's incredibly tight under 394. In fact, I mean, we're looking at, because in addition to building this wall along this route you see here, this is also a haul route into where the tunnel is going to be. And so it's so tight that under 394, we're looking at possibly having one-way truck traffic combined with pedestrians with a Jersey barrier separation between them in one of the bridge bays. But, and we're doing that not because that would be our preference, but because there's just no room to get the trucks past the work site. So this, this is a pretty big impact to us in terms of, especially as we got into this and we just realized how constrained the real estate is here, and working next to active freight where we've got to shut down the job approximately 40% of the time. A mile and a half wall when you're only able to work 60% of the time is a pretty big impact to the project. So slide 7. So this is a cross section of the top image here is an artist's rendering of what the wall will look like at Bassett Creek Valley Station. And then the image below is a cross section of what it would look like. The top image was a rendering at Bassett Creek Valley Station. The bottom image is a kind of a cross section in the Bryn Mawr Meadows area. And actually at Bryn Mawr, we do have a fair amount of real estate. So this picture where it shows the trail like it's far away, that's really in the Bryn Mawr area. Everything to the east is much tighter than this. But anyway, this image is really intended to show the corridor protection barrier in scale to the light rail and to the BNSF train there. It's that gray rectangle there, and you can see that it's integral to the project. It's going to support the track there, pretty much from Bryn Mawr down to the Glenwood area. And the wall is 10 foot tall on the BNSF side, and it ranges on. You'll see it shorter on the light rail side. It varies, but 3 to 6 feet could be what it will be on the light rail side. Slide number 8. So the other issue that I was describing was we're going to be doing what's called a secant wall at the Kenilworth area for the tunnel. And so what had happened here is that if you can see those vertical sheets that were installed into the ground on the left and right of this open excavation here, those we pushed those into the ground using a hydraulic pressing machine. And as we were doing that, contractor ran into a lot of boulders and cobbles and things underground. And what was happening is as they were running into obstructions, sometimes they'd have to excavate to remove those obstructions. Sometimes they'd have to pull the sheets out and kind of try to get them reset in. I mean, a lot of manipulation of the sheets in the ground. And anyway, the long and short of it is we had quite a bit of ground settlement adjacent to those sheets, on the order of 2 inches directly adjacent to those sheets. And so, we were able to install most of the sheets along where the tunnel is, but if you can see in the background on the left of this photo, that's the Calhoun Isles condominium building there. There's that, and then you can't really see it, but there's a parking garage just behind that. Well, we're about 2 feet from the foundations of that tall building, and we're about 6 inches from the foundations of that parking structure. And so we just can't drive those sheets next to those structures and get the kind of settlement that we're getting. That just isn't going to work. So we're changing our design for the support of excavation. And so what we're going to do is what's called a secant wall. And I've got an image of that actually, maybe let's go to the next slide and I'll speak from that. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Go back to 8. It's farther down. I'll just keep talking from slide 8. So what that secant wall is going to be, instead of doing those steel sheets that you see there, we're going to be drilling a series of interlocking concrete cylinders, and I'll maybe talk a little bit more about that when I get to the slide that's got a photo of that. We're going to be doing that in addition to we're going to actually thin up the tunnel wall. Okay, so this is the slide that shows the secants. So kind of in the background there, if you can see those what look like vertical concrete cylinders that go up and down. Those are secant walls, and the way the contractor does those is they drill one, then they skip one and drill the second one, and they fill both of those with concrete, and then they come back and they drill the pile in between those two that they just completed, and they actually drill through some of the existing pile because they want them to interlock, and in that one that is in between the two they had previously drilled, they insert a steel column. And so there's actually a steel column every other shaft, and all these things interlock together, and it's just a very strong wall. It's quite expensive, and the waterproofing can be tricky of it, which is kind of why we've known about this impact for a fair amount of time, and it's just taken us that long to get the technical details worked out about how we're going to do this. But we've imminently got that. We're just wrapping up the final design of this. We've got all the technical details worked out, and so it's going to go to pricing to the contractor soon. But this is what we're going to be doing: is that wall there, and to make the downside of this wall is that it's thicker than those sheets that you saw, and so we're going to have to, in conjunction with doing this wall, also thin up the tunnel wall to make this all work. So it's a pretty challenging just design, and it's not something that we had want. The reason why we didn't go from this beginning is it's a more expensive construction technique than just doing the sheeting that we had planned. So this is a pretty significant impact. It's got a lot of impacts on access to the work site that we're working through with the JV, which is partly why we don't know the schedule impacts, because it changes how the tunnel is going to be built too, because now they won't have access to this area to do the tunnel when they thought they would. They'll have to build this secant wall first. So maybe I'll go back, if you can go back up to the slides, I'll just run through with a tunnel construction sequence here. So this is the first slide, and so this kind of shows what you've seen in some of those other pictures. We install the sheets on either side of the tunnel. We install that top level of bracing. That's what you saw in that first photo I showed of the tunnel. Then we excavate down, and in the image on the right, we install the lower. There's a lower level of bracing, and then they excavate below that level of bracing, and it exposes the water table. Maybe go to slide 10. After they've done that water table and they do it, dug below the water table, they install that concrete seal down there on the left image, which acts as a plug. That makes the temporary supportive excavation. It makes it watertight. From there, then they can start building the actual tunnel, and that's what's shown on the right image. They do it, and this is the order they go in. They do the waterproofing. They do a leveling slab, add the waterproofing on top, and then they start pouring the slab of the tunnel itself. So maybe go to slide 11. After that's done, they do the walls and roof, finish the waterproofing, then they backfill on top and put the trail back to where it should be, and LRT runs underneath. So that whole sequence, though, is going to be different. It's just going to happen at a different time than we had anticipated in the where we're doing that secant wall. So maybe I think we can skip now to slide 13. So, and I think OEO will chime in here, but we understand there's going to be impacts to DBEs from this, and our OEO office is committed to working with DBEs to help understand what it is. But we do want to emphasize that it's really important that happens through the prime as well, because if DBEs were to try to just talk to OEO about impacts, it's going to take longer to get the issues resolved, because ultimately the issues have to run through the prime. And so really, if folks are talking to OEO, they really have to be talking to the prime in parallel. So otherwise it's going to take longer for their issues to get resolved, because if they were to, get OEO up to an understanding of what the issues are, then they've got to turn around and get the prime up to the same level of understanding. So really, DBE should be talking to both entities at the same time to make sure that there's no lag in that, getting an understanding of what the issues are between the prime and OEO. So I think that those are all my slides. Maybe I could just take questions here if folks have questions for me.
Thank you, Brian. One question just in terms of the corridor protection wall, and you might have covered this and I missed it. Was that anticipated, or was that was unexpected as well?
Well, no, the wall was anticipated. So, but this wall came up as a late requirement in BNSF negotiations, and so we weren't able to get the wall into the base contract, unfortunately. So, to keep our project schedule, we had to move forward with awarding the contract, and so we did that. And as we were, that's why it's being added as a change order, and I think one of the issues, I think it's been a little bit bigger impact than we had anticipated, just largely because, as we've gotten into this project now 2 years, we've just seen productivity in that corridor area and what it is, and it's bigger than we had probably anticipated when we started this job. And so that has an impact on that has a big influence on the impact of that wall. So I would say that the wall was not unanticipated, but we think, it is a bigger impact than we had first thought it would be. Any other questions?
Brian, if maybe I can add, we don't have a lot of answers for everybody today, and as you digest this and think about this, our commitment is definitely, as we know more of the potential impacts, that we would be sharing it with the advisory committee. We would just anticipate that, we'd take a few minutes at our meetings when we meet to just kind of share with you what we do know and how we're moving forward, and obviously take any questions that you might all have. So we're still learning as we're going, but we wanted to be transparent with you all and let you know that we understand the concerns. We definitely heard that, Barb, last time we got together. We want to make sure we're sharing good information to all of our folks that are working on this project.
This is Barb. Thank you very much, Sam. I appreciate that. I just obviously am the voice for these smaller guys that don't have one, and trying to just, right now there's a big impact with the skyrocketing cost of supplies as it is and freight, and I know that's affecting them, and I just can't imagine if we don't address this all the way through. So you guys are doing a great job. I appreciate it. I just want to make sure that the issue stays up there till we have a solution.
Understood. Thanks for that, Barb.
This is John Tao. I would like to also add that from the OEO perspective, we want to make sure that we are able to maintain the DBE participation too. So we're going to be working with the prime contractors to look for opportunities as the contract amount goes up. We want to make sure that we are also increasing the DBE participation. In addition to that, working with the prime contractors to figure out what are the impacts to DBEs. We know that we have a variety of DBEs here. Each DBE provides a different type of service, and the way that they run their business is a little bit different, depending on suppliers, truckers, to folks who are actually helping to build and do the labor. So, each DBE has different type of concerns, so we're going to monitor and then respond to each one appropriately. And then when DBEs are reaching out to prime contractors, we also want to be included in on those conversations so that we can provide support where we are able to. So if you are talking to DBEs, please let them know to copy us on their communications. We want to be involved and want to be transparent and support where we can. So.
Hi, this is Elaine Valadez from Human Rights. Along with that, we are concerned also that the prime contractor and their subcontractors are mindful about making sure that women and people of color are part of the work crews and that the goals are being kept in mind, so it doesn't negatively impact the workforce goal participation.
All right, thank you, Elaine. Thank you, Sam and Brian, for providing that information and update. I also just wanted to mention that OEO is here not only to assist in facilitate, but also be a resource and a connection to other resources and external resources that may be helpful in either mitigating some of those impacts or helping to address some of those impacts as well. So that's why it's also important for us to be involved and stay in the loop to provide those types of somebody's got their mic open there.
So, Ashanti, this is Gilbert. I got a quick question about how these changes are being communicated to the DBEs. Is that a process, or is there a meeting that is communicating? I appreciate the level of detail we got this afternoon, but how is this communicated to the DBEs?
This is Brian. Maybe I'll let Dale even speak a little bit more to that, because it's the prime who typically communicates with their subs. So I don't know, Dale, if you want to say anything about that.
Yeah, Gilbert. So as we work through these time-related changes, we're going to, on very specific issues, reach out to subs, and we've done that for the first one on the west end of the job, where we've notified them of the changes in time, and then request that they take a look at their if they have any impacts that go along with it, and we'll continue that process as we work with the council here to identify the changes in time on the job. But we're kind of in the infancy of that now. Like I said, we've only had one of the smaller ones to push out to all the subs, and that was done months ago. They've all seen something from us on that.
Well, and to support you guys, this is Krista with Lunda, with the joint venture. And to support what Dale's saying, the other thing, too, with what he's saying, with our light numbers right now, because of it upcoming, we do have a DBE workshop I'm going to talk about later in today's meeting. But we will cover quickly during that meeting that that we will be, discussing the delays with each of those individual DBEs so that everybody's on the same page. Thanks.
This is John O'Phelan. I just got a comment to share, and all of you might have heard the President's executive order yesterday on advancing racial equity and support for underserved communities. And if you look at that bill, a lot of it is going to be research in the next 6 months in regards to businesses having opportunities on projects like this. And since it's a federally funded project and we're the 50th worst state in regards to equity, perhaps there's a opportunity that somebody knocks on our door and says, hey, how's this going and what's going on about it. It says basically procurement and contracting opportunities, right? I'm looking at it right now, but I just want everybody to be aware about it. It's the director of OMB that will be overseeing it, and in the next 6 months the study's going to start right away. But I think this project would be a prime project to be sampled, as not only Minnesota not being very equitable, but also a lot of money, federal money, is put into this project. Just a comment.
All right. Are there any other questions for Brian or Sam? In that case, I'm going to also just remind everyone, I forgot to do this at the top, please refrain from using the chat with the exception of communicating any technical difficulties, because those viewing in public cannot see it. And we want to make sure that the conversations are covered and the questions being asked can be heard and addressed by everyone. So thank you for that. Next up, we have John Tao, who's going to present the DBE update for the project.
Thank you, Ashanti. So the achievement for November that was reported to the FTA, these are the numbers. The civil contract, still maintaining their 20%. and this is PayApp 27 that we are reporting on. So I believe in the past couple of months, there was some concerns regarding making sure that DBEs were getting paid. So, we've processed it. So we just want to make sure that folks know we are prioritizing and making sure that we are processing these invoices as quickly as possible. And then along with that, we also are seeing a uptick in participation from the systems contracts. So they're up at 10% right now. So that's a jump for them and their contract. In addition to the Ellis Black jumped up to 9.6% from the previous 5 or 6%. So more activity is being paid out for and billed for. So that's a good sign as we are stepping into 2021. I think that this is a good start for us. And then overall, the construction contracts are moving along, and we are continuing to do our monitoring and staying in touch with the prime contractors and having quarterly meetings with them, so that if there are any issues, that we can be proactive. And then with our commercially useful site visits with the DBEs, we are making sure that we ask them questions to make sure that if they have issues or concerns or questions, that we can make them feel supported and address them at the lowest level. So in your handouts, you will see the pay app and tables that indicate which DBEs got paid and what they've billed to date so far. So are there any questions regarding the DBE participation?
This is, John, there's an error in all the formulas for DBEs paid that's needs to be adjusted. It's like missing millions of dollars of under the DBE billed to date, DBE paid to date.
Which contract are you referring to, or is it all of them?
It's all of them. So I gotta enlarge mine now. I did this morning. So if you look at, let's just talk about the systems contract. Billed this month, DBE billed to date, $4,600,000 and some dollars. DBE paid to date $1 million. Amount unpaid $200,000. That's like $3 million floating in the air that's out there. So there's something messed up, I think.
So this is showing that recently they had a big invoice that came through that was paid out. So I think that our systems prime contractor can explain a little bit more about what was in that recent pay app. But that was there. And then I think we were having some issues with their accounting department trying to get our schedules to line up because they were entering in payments ahead of time. So we were trying to line up our schedules for entering in the data. So that's something that we were trying to get fixed, and it should be fixed within the next month or so.
Hey,
but
John,
that's the difference.
This is Krista, and sorry to interrupt like I did just now, but it's hard when I'm on the phone. It's that way for every single one of these sheets, so it's not just the system. It is huge money offset. There's something wrong with this. So you guys I highly recommend taking a look at it.
Okay, yeah, we will review it and report back out next month. So thank you for pointing it out.
John, were you trying to suggest, what's the comparison between billed to date and paid to date?
So billed to date shows the total of what's been billed, and paid to date, there is a delay there because what's paid to date, maybe you're billing out for pay app 27 per se,
Yep.
And payout 27 hasn't been paid out to the DBE subs yet because it was just billed. So,
so really what you're showing here is a lag in the natural lag that's in the billing process, in that we've submitted an invoice to you and it carries that many dollars. But till the monies actually that's a separate process that you track. That might be 60 days down the road. So that's where the two diverge.
Correct.
Okay. But,
in addition to retainage too, as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the retainage, right? Got it.
So basically, the bill to date, paid to date, and amount unpaid is never gonna. The math is never gonna work.
At the end of the job, it'll close out.
Yeah.
There's always going to be a lag. What's shown here is that, by the time we submit an invoice to the council, it's 30 to 45 days, whatever the number is, before they pay us. And then there's another 10 days on that, or so we pay the sub. So, you got 40 or 50 days in their lag. And I think that's what you see here. And then the other piece is the retainage.
And then when we're reporting out the paid to date, that's what we're reporting out is dollars that have been reported to us that LMJV or the prime contractors have paid out to their subs. So we only report what they report having paid to their subs. But we'll take another look at it to see if there are different ways, if there are issues, or else if there are different ways where we can maybe show the data so that it's less confusing.
And just so you can do that, do you see why I'm confused though? Does it make sense why I'm confused?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't totally off the rails here.
Yeah, no, what really the divergence, I think, Barb, is the bill to date is a more current document than the paid, in that they're always going to have, so if you put dates on there, they're always going to be separated by 45 or 60 days or whatever the number is.
Thanks, that helps a lot.
Yep.
Any other questions regarding DBE participation or the DBE section? All right, I will hand it back to the chairs.
Thanks, John. All right, I am going to turn it over to the the LMJV DB activities. If that's Dale or Dale?
Dale or me.
Or Krista. I thought you were going to cover the workforce, but if you're covering both, that's great.
We take team, huh, Dale?
Right on. John, just to back up to the previous discussion about the payments to subs, you might be able to draw that number much closer if you compared the bill to date month previous, so you're lining it up, like backing it up 2 months so you can see rolling that they are being paid. Just a thought if you're going to go down that rabbit hole. But anyway, on this, owner changes to date that have been approved by the council are 29 million. And our DBE participation rate is 2.5 million. Now it says, I don't know who did the math on this, but 2.5 million to 29 million doesn't seem like 14.2%. Seems like less than 10%. I didn't put this slide together. Did this come from Cody, John?
It did.
It did. Well,
8.7%.
What's that?
8.7 or 8.6%. Sorry.
Yeah, I question the validity of all these numbers on here right now. That doesn't.
I think what Cody's doing, and I'm sorry, you guys, and I'm really sorry, Dale, he's getting his DBA participation number from the total amount, not just from the change orders. And we need to have him correct that.
Well, he's got both numbers there. The bottom number is a 20.16%, which is probably the right number job wide. But the calculation there for the DB participation, either the change order participation number isn't right or the percentage isn't right, one of the two, or the change orders. We need to check those numbers, but I guess every one of these changes we're pricing, if it's T&M work in the field, that's usually going to whoever's got the work assigned. So we're not farming out somebody else's work to somebody else for DBE, but all these new changes in scope, we're being diligent in trying to get the DBE dollars into the changes in scope to make sure we're carrying that 16+% in these. So we'll check these numbers for the next go around. We'll make sure they're accurate.
Great.
Next
and now,
slide. What's that?
Now I'll jump in
hey.
for the next slide. And right before that next slide is where I'm going to talk to you guys real quick about that February workshop that we have coming up for our DBEs. This will be the second one that we're hosting for them for this project. It has a great agenda for our DBEs. Like I said, it's the end of February. We're going to be reviewing some things that have already been discussed, and just making sure all the bases are covered. We're going through quality management, with the materials, certifications, Buy America, that whole, gamut of stuff, but also document control, which is so easy to be so overwhelming, for the DBE, for those small businesses. And we want to make sure that we're providing our resources, of a larger company for them, the document control, the red lines, the RFIs, the field orders, the monthly workforce compliance and stuff like that. So we want to make sure they know who their connection is for those pieces, what is required of them, but also what's required of us, to help mentor them with that. And also the big piece, and we've been talking about it, for the last couple of months, are the change orders. So we will be reviewing the change orders, scope, time impact, cost. So I just want you guys to be aware of this great thing that we have coming up to give our DBEs further support to be successful on this project. So the slide that you guys have on, I think, because I'm not on, is the anticipated DBEs. You still see a nice list, and staff participation is rolling forward. It's exciting to have this many DBEs working on such a magnitude of a beautiful project. If you could go to the next slide, please. Here's where we, I hope, are highlighting our DBE of the month, and it is safety signs. I did a nice, easy picture, but, boy, there's some interesting ones out there, that's for sure. Safety signs, they're doing great. They're an awesome contractor to work for. Love having them on our projects. Their original contract value, as you can see, was $6 million, just a little over. It has grown, and it will, if I had to guesstimate, will continue to grow, which is great. As you all know, there's this traffic maintenance, and they are one of the leads in the industry regarding traffic maintenance. Dale, who's on, of course, gave us our quote, about them. And they are a great, partner on the project. Their staff is professional, very responsive, always wanting to know what more they can do to help us and such. So there they are there. And that's all I have to say right now. Thanks, guys.
All right. Looks like APJV is up next. This is Chris Gannon, the PM for APJV on the systems project. So for our DBE, it's not quite as long as LMJV, but anyways, we have our three there. Big G with the office, generation cables, delivered the balance of those three types of cable. And then Gunner Electric did a little bit of fiber optic cable installation work at Franklin Yard. So far, again, our list is not as long yet as LMJV, but of our 10 DBEs that we've signed up, the 6 listed here have participated in the project so far. So we're off to a good start. Next slide, please. So here's our change order slide. So we're in a really unique situation at this point in time. We're actually, our change order amount from the council is actually negative. We recently had a large change order, so we're negative, but on the good side for our DBEs, none of the negative change order amounts impacted them, so still positive. And Gunner Electric is the largest one right now. They've had change orders of $191,600, $683. And like John had mentioned, our DB participation increased significantly since last time we were together, and that was largely due to Generation Cable delivering the cable for the project. And next slide. I think that might be it for us. Yep, that's it for APJV and DB. Anybody have any questions or comments?
All right. Up next, Franklin O&M, Alex Black.
Yep, this is Brian Leach, one of the PMs here at Franklin O&M. Jumping right in here, this first one, O&M change order update. We've got $125,000 that you can see there, that you can see there on the screen. DB change order participation about 27% there, and that's just mainly a couple of our key DBBs, including Bald Eagle and Gold Fetch. To date, we're working through some other O&M change orders that will involve some additional DB participation. Go to the next slide. This one, our feature this month is painting by Nakasone. They are just starting here recently. You can see they're only at 3%. But we just got them rolling out here about a month, 6 weeks ago. We're looking forward to having them out to do quite a bit of work for us. Their current contract is $734,000. Like I mentioned earlier, we're at about 20 today, so roughly 3%. So we got a lot of work coming from them. Go to the next slide. And then just a list. I mentioned a couple of these, but our current active DBEs, Airfresh, Bald Eagle, Gold Fetch. I won't run through all these, but there you can see on the left, that's the teams we've had out of the trade partners to date. And then upcoming here in the next maybe month or two would be the ones on the right here, Always Tile Stone, Minnesota Street Works, Rock on Trucks, and Total Insulation. So looking forward to getting a handful of those trade partners out on site to help out and help us get to the end of this job. Next slide.
Hey, it's Krista here from Lunda Shocker. I just want to tell you guys, I think it's really great to see the growth and the participation that you guys have with LS Black and the Franklin O&M. This is awesome. It's really fun to see the partnership across. Yep, you bet.
Thank you, Krista. Thank you. And Elaine, would you like to come on to talk about the workforce participation?
Yes. You want me to do my video? Can you go to the next slide, John, please? Thank you. So this is for the civil contract, LMJV. For November, they had 62,677 hours. Through the end of November, from the start of the project, 928,900 hours. For the month, they came in at 9% for women, and then for overall, they're at 8.47 or 8.5. For POCI, they came in at 24.25, and overall, they're at 21.42. Only 0.67% of the workforce indicated no or did not indicate any ethnicity. They're 0.31 overall. Next slide, please. So for the participation for the month of November, white women represented 7% or 4,141 hours. Women of color were 1,502 or 2% of the workforce. Men of color were 13,698 or 22%. White men were at 68% or 42,914. And the unspecified were 423. And these are in hours, by the way, not in terms of people. Next slide, please. So for the trucking that we are counting, MBE to date has 17,246 hours. ZTS is 3,293 hours, and Rock On is 585 hours. Now, I'm going to turn this over to Salima, who wants to talk about the opportunity analysis that's in the handouts.
Thank you so much, Elaine. So on page 26 of the handouts, we have responded to the request that we received at our last advisory meeting that it would be helpful to have some idea of what the dollar amounts of opportunity there are had we been at full 32% for people of color and 20% women in terms of payroll. I think we had explained that the project goals are set up for the entire project, and we are in the middle of the project right now. So there is opportunity as we look at the future, but we wanted to be able to be responsive to that request. So you will see on page 26 of the handouts, we have taken a very rudimentary approach, which is we took the full hours that people of color have worked on the project to date, as well as women to date. We projected out that if those hours had been 32% or 20% respectively, how many hours are we missing that if we were at full capacity for participation we would have? And then we went back and looked at the payroll, project to date payroll for people of color and for women, and then we projected out that if that payroll had been for 32% people of color instead of where we are today, same with women, what is the dollar amount that's the opportunity dollars that we would be at right now had we been at participation. We understand that the formula is very rudimentary because it doesn't account for all the various trades and the individual rates for the trades. It's just taking a very high level snapshot, and we welcome you not only today but even offline to give us ideas of ways in which we could be making this formula more responsive to what the advisory is looking for. Thank you.
Question, you guys, real quick. Salima, why was it only done for the joint venture? And I don't agree with the whole analysis, but that's my opinion. But I don't understand why it was only done for the joint venture.
Yeah, it's because the hours that we have for Alice Black and for APJV right now are so low. But we could easily do something similar as we get more hours, or we could even for Alice Black do one at the next meeting. We were asked for it as just a high level gauge, and that's why we've provided it. But we are open to your ideas.
It's a high level gauge, but it doesn't show true amounts. So I think this is something that should be discussed with the Met Council and with the Department of Human Rights and the three contracts on a separate occasion until it's figured out. Thanks.
And this is Barb. I'm actually going to chime in with Krista. When I saw this, although it was requested to show something like this at the last meeting, I don't think it was literally vetted from the committee as a whole as to this, whether this is something that we wanted to show. And I have heartburn when I actually look at this, as you've heard me. You're actually saying what would be the dollar impact if we actually met goals with fictitious people that aren't out there. So I think that if somebody were to look at this as just raw data, they would look at this with the assumption that those were numbers that we could actually get to. And so that makes me really, really nervous. And also the dollar amounts, would we ever know what dollar amounts and wages would be paid on the project as a whole? So I, as long-term committee member and last Central Quarter too, I find this to be very, very dangerous if this got into the hands of somebody that doesn't look at all of the nuances that go into this. So there's my 2 cents.
Can folks hear me? Hello?
Yes. Yes, Mel, we can hear you. I think Barb was.
So
yeah,
listen, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, Mel, we can hear you.
Okay. So who was just speaking?
Barb Lau was speaking. This is Salima now.
Barb. So Barb, we have to be careful when you use that expression, fictitious folks. Remember, that's why we have all these meetings, because it's not absolutely clear that we have actually found everybody that qualifies to be put in these positions. That's not 100% clear. Maybe it is to you, but it's not to me. So I think we have to be careful when we use that term, fictitious people. I don't think it's fictitious people. I think there are people out there that we still haven't found. Especially the COVID thing has kind of put a freeze on a lot of stuff because we can't interact the way we normally do. So I just want to say just a point of clarification.
I respect the clarification on fictitious, but if we look at the number of women that are working in the industry as a whole, and we get numbers from the building and trades that we're nowhere near 20%, but we're going to say there's 14% women out there that we could be hitting the goal with at this time. And there's a lot of skilled labor that those unions don't have even close to the amount of people that would be getting to 20%. That's what just gets me a little bit dangerous, that this makes it look like it's possible to get to those numbers. And we don't know if that's actually true given this particular time in the marketplace and the particular level that we're at with workforce. That's all I just think that makes it a little dangerous with somebody that isn't as versed as yourself or myself, and I'm not even as versed, but if this were to get on the wrong hands, I think, and people were, my biggest complaint about the goals that were set, and in particularly the goal of 20% women, is that it will always look like the contractors are failing because we don't have that to draw from. And if they're drawing every woman that's on the bench even, we're not going to hit 20%. And so the contractors look like they're failing at every turn. And that's where I think it's dangerous. I think that I know what we're trying to do with build a workforce for the future, but there's a lot more things you and I both know about, even just the site friendliness of workers that need to be addressed in order for us to even get to those numbers. So I just think this is a real dangerous opportunity analysis piece.
And you guys to support Barb with what?
Hold on one second. Thank you, Barb. Thank you, Mel. I just wanted to chime in here because I think there's a bigger picture here. I think first of all, to be clear that this is a request.
To mute their phone.
Yeah, somebody should mute the phone. Okay. I think first let's recognize that this was a request to see if we could quantify this some way in dollars. I think both the council and human rights knew that this was tricky and there's some nuance to this. I think what I would take exception to is describing this as dangerous or like it's a nuclear football or something. It's just a way to look at the data. And I think the other thing we need to keep in mind, and I think John O'Phelan hit on this a little bit, is we live in a region that is woefully underperforming when it comes to equity and providing opportunities. So especially when we say and we defeat ourselves and say that we can't get to these numbers. You know what? We don't know if we can get to these numbers, and there's a lot of things that we don't know. But there's a lot of things that we could be doing to improve these numbers and to drive and get us to reaching these numbers. And I think that's the point. The point is, one of the points of this committee is to discuss ways, ideas, strategies to help us get to those numbers and get us there. But if we're already saying that it's impossible and we're never going to get there, then I think then we're in trouble. And I think this is just another way for us to look at the data and present it. I think we had already acknowledged at the front end that it's not exact, it's not perfect, but this was a request and we're just providing it. And I think, yes, it's important to point out the flaws or potential flaws in the data, but I don't think it's dangerous or people are going to get hurt or this is going to cause some ripple effect throughout Minnesota. So I think we put everything in context, one piece of data. Thank you, Salima, for taking an effort and trying to tackle and address this question. And yes, I agree. We can have more discussion on this and more vetting out, but thank you for at least trying and taking this first step.
This is John O'Fallon. I'd like to add a little bit onto that. I mentioned the beginning of this. We're the 50th state in the country that has the worst economic impact with people of color. And, this is, to me, kind of a call of action. And yeah, there's going to be data issues here. But the call to action is, hey, this committee actually comes up with best models, best practices that are used throughout the Twin City metro area. It's the great reason why there's a forum here, and it's an awesome thing. And I think this could be a study that could be done with, figuring out the right formula, the right models with perhaps the, Federal Reserve of Minneapolis or the Humphrey Institute, but somebody that could really look at this and say, what is the economic impact loss in regards to available workers of women and people of color and even veterans? And what is the economic impact loss that has occurred because we haven't done due diligence? When we're the 50th worst state in the country, my gosh, there's an opportunity to look at economic impact here and say, is there something here? You're right, it's not 3220, but what is it? And what is a nice figure? But it does call out that the people of color and women have definitely had an economic impact negatively in regards to our industry. And I think it's worth figuring out how do we carry that concept, that model forward to create something more formal and better for us to use throughout our region.
Good afternoon. This is Julie Brecky. I would just echo what John is saying. What I love about this document, albeit imperfect, is that we're looking at opportunity analysis. And if we say we can't get there, I think there's a call to action, as John mentioned, to say, what does a 2-year plan look like to get there? Let's be planful. If we continue to have the same issue in reaching these goals project after project, we need to stick a stake in the ground and say, let's plan to do different. Otherwise, we won't be closing those disparities that we know are so omnipresent in the state of Minnesota.
Can Krista talk, please? I'm raising my hand. You guys, I agree with what you're saying about the long run. The 32 and 20%, and I sat on the advisory board for the 20%, are very important numbers for our state. Because we're getting there. We are getting there. We see our communities and stuff, our beautiful communities, but we aren't there yet. Our outreach efforts are what we need to be focusing on this project right now. Our outreach efforts to grow those numbers, to grow the availability, so when our contractors do have hiring needs, we have people ready. So we need to focus on that, you guys. Just please remember that. But again, the study is great. I love the idea of it. I think Salima's done a wonderful job being thrown something that is really hard to measure. But to put a dollar value on something that is a fluctuating number is where we need to be careful. And I think we as a group need to come up with that study together the right way. I love it. But right now, it really hurts because for the simple fact that today, we're in January. We're not hiring. Actually, we've had to let people go. Not just Lunda, not just McCrossin, joint venture, but our subcontractors. So if you look at our data right now, you guys, where our percentages are at right now, and with the fact that our numbers have decreased, but our percentages have maintained or if not grown, that's what we need to be focusing on today. 32 and 20 is a goal. What are we going to do to grow for tomorrow? Thanks, guys.
Just got a quick question about the numbers. Is a concern about the dollar amounts at the bottom of the page, or is it about the rest of the numbers? Because I think that might be the only line that I would question.
Well,
Bob, maybe Bob, you can help me out. Bob,
an observation of this document, I think what I heard Barb say was she was concerned about this just being reported as fact, that the numbers there are, I think it's a dollar figure that she's probably referring to in the opportunity cost. Is that what we call opportunity analysis? Barb, is that right?
I think it's twofold, because we've talked about where we want to be, but then we're also talking about what is the availability now to get there. And I think that that's two different things. The availability now is not in any industry that I'm looking at right now. The availability is not across the board 20% female availability. And again, Mel, I lean towards the female because I hear about that. That's the constituency I hear about from my scholarship recipients, so I can speak to it more. I also was involved a lot with the people that were on that whole workforce analysis piece led by Krista, and they did a large availability study about where they thought that we would be able to get to, and that unfortunately was disregarded in setting the goals. And so the goal was this major stretch goal for females that wasn't what the industry and all of the analysis came to. And so when we talk availability, and we're saying this availability at a 14.24 or additional people or women at an opportunity analysis, the analysis looks like we are missing an opportunity today. And so this $4 million impact, which, by the way, again, we haven't even discussed if the wage piece was worked. And I'm sure, Salima, you worked really hard to aggregate looking at the different trades, et cetera, and try and come up with an average. And I agree with everybody. This looks like it was a lot of work. But I am so concerned that we look like we're literally keeping these dollars away from this many people if we're not saying that as the availability rate now is different than what we would like to see it grow into. That's my whole point, and no, it's not nuclear war, Ashanti, but it can be dangerous if we go with if we give the picture that there are 20% females available right now to do this work that aren't being bicycled in, and all of the other workforce issues that we know exist out there. We know better is all I'm saying about the nuances of how we need to get to these numbers. And I just get really nervous when we talk black and white that this is the opportunity that was missed, is how it sounds to me. And I don't think that London McCrossan missed an opportunity to pay out an additional $5 million to 14.24% women that we don't know exists in there, especially this early in the project when we haven't even gotten that percentage of project completion done to get to the percentage hours. I'm always going to be the one that's going to look at data and say, okay, but have we taken into consideration X, Y, Z when we're doing black and white numbers? That's all. So thanks for hearing me out. I'm sorry if I came off a little bit like nuclear war. I didn't mean to, Ashanti. But I think we're both on the same side. I think we want to be there. I just don't want it to look like we haven't done what we need to do today.
Yes, and I agree, Barb. I just think that there's two different things here. yes, I think most of us would agree, and especially most of us who provided input and feedback on the goals themselves would agree that the availability or utilization analysis probably doesn't support the goals. However, the reality is the goals are what they are, and the goals for this project are what they are, and we can't change that. So this, I believe, is just an opportunity to say, if we met the goal, on this project, what is that difference in dollars? And I know that, if we wanted to attack the other issue, I think that's a whole different fight that I don't think we're going to resolve here at the Southwest Light Rail Advisory Committee meeting. And that's in terms of what the goals are set at. However, the goals are what they are. Here's the difference, and here's the gap of where we are and what the goals are. That. Unfortunately, whether we like that or not, that's the reality, and I think that's the what the task Salima and her team were trying to accomplish. So I just wanted to make sure we make distinction between those two things: the actual availability and utilization. Your point, very well taken. I don't argue with that, but the relevant point in the reality of where we are is what the goals are for this project. That's all. And I think we're going to have to move on. So I'm sorry if others wanted to chime in, but I think we need to move on.
I just had a quick comment about the numbers at the bottom, though. I feel like I don't want to touch the availability issue. I think the goals, like you said, are already set. But the POC dollars and the women dollars at the bottom, I think it would just be helpful to know what average number was used, because I think it's a little of a projection of a dollar rate, as a multiplier of the hours. So I'm okay with the hours, because it's by inference. If you're not meeting the goals, those are the hours. That is accurate. But with the dollars, I would maybe question how those averages were arrived at. Thank you.
Real quick, Ashanti. I remember we asked for the numbers on one of the last big projects, and what it does. So it's a 6 and 1 half done the other. So it's a good thing too, because now people can see how we're making progress, and people can see how the community actually benefited from a project. That's what the numbers do as well. You know what I'm saying? And because, as I always say, everybody puts into these projects, right? Everybody puts into the money that we use to build a project. So it's good when the community can see, oh, okay, so we got a little piece of it back. So I think on the positive side, that's what the financial, the actual numbers, I think, do as well.
Okay, thank you, Mel. I think
thank you, Mel, and thank you, everybody.
Yeah, maybe we should state what the average is. Then we know it's an average. Thank you.
Yeah.
Go back to the Federal Reserve.
Thank you, Gilbert, and we can. Yeah, and we can have this conversation offline also, and also please feel free to email us or let us know if there are things like this that we could be doing a more accurate job of. But I want to be able to honor the fact that today our meeting is going to be over at 3:45. So I want to make sure that we hear from.
Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure we had an opportunity to give the joint ventures the opportunity to present what they've been working on, and we still have a little bit more of an agenda left over. Would you like to, Krista? Would you like to move on to the workforce activities?
I would love to, Salima. Thank you very much. And again, thank you, seriously. Not just you, Salima, but everybody. The Department of Human Rights, my council and stuff, we all are a team. You're going to hear me say it every single month at every single meeting. Us working together is going to only help increase, what we're all committed to do here. So I truly, truly do appreciate it, even though I may come off as pretty strong. You guys, know why I do. I believe in this. I'm actively doing it, even when I'm at home trying to sleep. So anyways, moving forward, joint venture workforce activity, which I can't wait to get you guys going on some stuff, hopefully, because the biggest thing in the success with the 32% is our outreach efforts. What are we doing as a team to help increase these things? You know, even during the non-hiring winter seasons and stuff, we need to be doing something. So, of course, we continue with our good faith effort meetings, not just with the Council on Human Rights, but also with our subcontractors. We meet every single month with our active subcontractor team. And we also let those that are not currently active participate in those monthly good faith effort meetings where we discuss, you know, the potential of good faith efforts, what people are doing, things like that. We're also continuing to brainstorm internally with Lunda on creating a potential pre-apprenticeship program of some sort or something where we take individuals that are truly interested in the light rail project but aren't ready for that apprenticeship yet and give them a little bit extra education than, you know, what they currently have and stuff. We're also working with our team and stuff with creating training for our field employees and stuff on what it is like to be on a construction project and stuff, and communication work, you know, regarding that and everything. Let's see here. What was the other thing I wanted to talk? Oh, I already told you guys, it's kind of fun when we have our percentages to be able to see during the workforce months where the months go down, you know, where the winter, of course, our construction goes down a little bit, to see the maintaining of those percentages, I think is very key highlight on the entire project. And then you guys will see the last slide shows that, and again, we can tell you why. We didn't have any new hires. And it's because of, you know, the slow activity in the winter months. Believe it or not, you guys, that's all I have to say right now. And I really appreciate everybody being a part of this great board. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Krista. And we are now going to go back and look at the numbers for Aldridge Parsons joint venture and then come back to their activities. Elaine, do you want to go back and present on the hours for them?
Yes. Thank you, Salima. Again, in November, Aldridge Parsons did not have any work hours. We will see some work hours in December for the next meeting. They're still at 34.53% for women and 29.6% for people of color. Next slide, please. So for LS Black, for November, they had 5,280 hours, and since the start of the project in July, they've logged 11,361 hours. For November, they came in at 13.23% for women. Overall, they're at 18.19. For people of color, they came in at 32.76%, and overall, they're at 27.7%. They only logged 0.6% for unspecified, and overall it's 1.59%. And that, I think, are the numbers. So I think we can go to APJV. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I'm Mike Toney from Aldridge Parsons. I'm hoping you can hear me this month. And so our plan to meet the workforce goals. You know, due to the delays in the project, you know, Aldridge Parsons has not started work really. We've had maybe, as you see, 222 hours to date through December. We had a whopping 38 hours in December by Gunner, and our work in 2021 is going to be piecemeal. We'll have limited access in April of 2021 at one of the stations. We'll have limited work again in June of 2021. And then also limited work in October of 2021, best case scenarios right now. So, you know, you saw that London McCrossin had like 60,000 hours just in the month of November. We'll probably have a third of that just for the entire year of 2021. So you're talking 20,000 hours. So this, you know, just limited work. So we don't expect a lot of hours. The bulk of our hours are going to come when the project gets past the civil portion, which will be in 2022 and 2023. So what we're doing now is we're talking to the local 292, local 160, which is our inside and outside electricians for this project, and also local 49 operating engineers. And we continue to work with them and find them. We're looking to increase, retention, for the non-licensed trades, like electricians and operating engineers, going to make up about 75% of our workforce are licensed, and they come and call in a certain order, and there's only a certain amount of things you can do, but we're going to try and work through that the best of our ability and encourage that and take every opportunity we can. But, for our subcontractors might be working on different portions of work, which has carpenters and laborers, find out people who, give the retention factor. So we're just going to try and identify people that work maybe on the civil side, say, hey, these guys are available, or ask our subcontractors and they're doing those scopes of work and, consider using these guys. We've also met with John at the Ramsey County Workforce. He gave me a lead with Tyler, who I talked to this week. We've worked with the Building Strong cohort, Building Strong Communities cohort in October. We participated in mock interviews at Summit Academy back in November and again last week or 2 weeks ago now. And then we're talking to the ACE Mentorship Program for some interns for long-term relationships with some of these high school kids that plan on going to college that want to get into these architectural construction engineering firms. And that's been, so we're working there. And then we're going to be having kickoff meetings, to talk to some of our lower tier subs with Meyer, who has, 3 DBE contractors under them, and let them know what expectations are and keep working with them. And these lower tier subcontractors are not new to this project. And they've been working on the civil side. So that's really what I have. Any questions?
Thank you so much. Next, we'll ask Ellis Black to present their activities.
All right, this is Brian Ellis Black. So first bullet point here, we have scheduled a member mingle with the Association of Women Contractors. I got to confirm a date on that. But the goal is obviously network promote some opportunities to obtain some more female workforce retention or possibilities. And one thing we have going for us on this project is we're actually kind of on the upswing, and we've got some interior work that I guess some of the other APJV and London Lacrosse have a lot of exterior work. This winter we can actually increase our monthly work hours, so there's opportunity there where we don't have the winter lull. So I guess we're excited about that opportunity to have some more potential female participation. In that same note, our director of field ops has a couple of calls and meetings with workforce development and Met Council and Building Strong Communities for more or less the same possibility of some POCIs and women. Like that mentions in early 2021, we have some self-perform work that will be ongoing through the winter and early spring here. So again, some opportunity to boost our crews with actual work coming up, which is nice to have that opportunity when it does get cold out. And then this is another ongoing monthly conversation we have with the 563s and 322s about workforce and who's available, and trying to keep a monitor on our crew side and potential to add on participants when possible. Like I said, we've got some work going, so we're excited about the potential to keep things rolling and not have a lull here in the spring. So those are our goals. If anyone has any questions, that's kind of what we're about it.
Hey, Brian, it's Barb over at AWC.
Mm-hmm.
Just a correction, the member mingle would be about DBE participation and not workforce.
Oh, all right. We'll clean that up. I guess I was misinformed there.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Brian. We just want to remind the advisory that we've been meeting on a monthly basis with both Ellis Black and LMJV to go over their subcontractors and the good faith efforts being made by all, not just the prime, but the subs. And we appreciate those efforts, ongoing efforts, to ensure that we are moving forward in our workforce participation. So I will turn over now to Ashanti for the next part of our agenda.
Thank you, Salima. Yes, we wanted to be at the Metro Council responsive to what we heard at the last meeting in terms of the desire of the committee to hear from some of our leadership. So we did reach out and ask that Cy Jordan, who's the director of the Office of Equal Opportunity, come and talk to and address the committee. And Cy, you are up.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is Cy. As Shanti mentioned, I'm the Director of Equal Opportunity. Certainly, I've been involved in this committee off and on since we formed, mostly leading it up to the leadership of the co-chairs and being in the support function for this committee. And so I wanted to come today. I was on the call at last month, but I had to come in and out. So I didn't hear the discussion and the questions related directly to the Office of Equal Opportunity. So I wanted to give you a chance to ask those of me directly and answer any questions you might have. And pending any questions, and so certainly anybody can chime in with any questions you have at this time, but I know many of you are familiar with Ashanti from his prior leadership in MnDOT, and then now he's been with the council for just over a year now. The only change with the different transactions that I'm making in the Office of Equal Opportunity to this actual committee would be his service as the co-chair on this committee. So that's how the changes of OEO specifically relate to DBE and workforce.
So this is John O'Phelan. If I can recall in the discussion, and I'm not sure how the meeting minutes worked out, is there was kind of a request for you and Charlie Zelli to give us more of a presentation of what the future of Met Council looks like, both on from your department and on the higher level of Met Council in regards to some of the equity work you're on in the initiatives you're working on. So as for questions, I don't have a question as much as just a request that it'd be great to hear from you. I know we're short on time today, so it feels kind of quick, but I think me and others put that on the table, and it'd be great for you to come back and kind of hear from both of you, just the vision of Met Council in regards to equity work. Obviously, this is a huge project. You're going to be going out and asking the community for BOTNO funding and support and having us write letters and call our legislators. And, you know, equity is important to that. Is this a supportive project? Is it worth another $1 billion to be working on another infrastructure project? If so, why? And what's your take on it? So I would prefer that over ask questions right now.
And so just to be responsive to that, as an executive at Metropolitan Council, I would have the authority to speak to anything related to the Office of Equal Opportunity. It sounds like your request is much larger than the DBE and Workforce Advisory. When you have a request of what the vision for equity is to the council, that's very expansive. And so some hint to what focus you're looking on would be helpful in that regard. And so are we talking about equity as it relates to transportation requests for funding, equity in the council as it relates to our own internal workforce, or support of the workforce goals for these type of projects, equity as it relates to planning and policy decision-making around transportation? So maybe some more conversation offline about what your request would be and what would be the appropriate format for that kind of presentation.
Personally, I'd say both, but if others want to chime in.
Science, Barb. I think last meeting everyone was kind of just shook with the changes in staffing, and so I think there was a lot of conversation in and around that. I think there was some question about, you know, the commitment to equity still. There might be are you replacing staff and bringing new people in that would be liaisons in other areas? I think it was just people trying to catch their breath without having any answers and a little bit of surprise. So I don't know that we gave specific direction to Shanti. We kind of shocked him, I think, as we were shocked too.
I agree with Barb.
Hello? Can you people hear me?
I think there's two people trying to chime in at one time, and so I heard another voice, but then I heard after that it appeared to be Marvin Smith. So I'm going to give you both the opportunity.
Okay, well, this is Marvin, President of the National Association of Minority Contractors. This is my third meeting, and I would like somebody just to kind of reach out to me, outside of this particular meeting and help get me up to speed so that, there may be opportunities for members of our association, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the comment I wanted to make.
Can certainly do that, yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And there was a second voice I heard.
Yes, thank you. It's Krista with Linda. And I just want to, support Barb with what she said. It was just a sudden thing for everybody. But I also want to say that with Ashante and what he has done, in the short time already, I am looking forward to what we have an opportunity to do moving forward with the team, between we have an upcoming meeting with myself with Ashante and Aaron Koski and stuff. Change happens, and everything. And I just want to, say that our LNJB looks forward to what we have with, especially now that our schedule's gotten longer, we have more time to continue to do the great things ahead of us. So, Ashante, thank you for everything you've done so far in the project.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. I know we have a couple more minutes left on this meeting. I'm not sure if we have another agenda item after this. And I don't want to belabor the point too long, but I just wanted to add a little to the great discussion that you were having about that projection in the workforce goals. And so very good points made during that discussion. And there is still yet another opportunity to use that data and information outside of this committee to talk about what the economic impact would be if we could get to that number, whether it be on this project or any other project in the future. And that is certainly going to be a valuable conversation for the state of Minnesota as a whole. So I just wanted to add that piece to it. So that is not necessarily should be seen as a negative for what we're doing here, but could be used positively in a lot of discussions in the future. And having that data, at least as a starting point, is always a good opportunity for us. Any additional questions on this particular area?
If I could chime in, and if it is still, and some committee members want to, get some perspective on our council-wide equity initiatives or policy, et cetera, I think that we might have to consider and agree that some of the staples and standard parts of our meeting may have to be sacrificed for that month, if that's what the ask and desire is of committee members. And then also, I'll just say, if there aren't any more questions for Cy, we do have one other agenda item, and I know that we might have just enough time, because I know that there was a 2.5-minute video that's a part of that presentation. So if there aren't any more questions, I believe, Aaron, if you're still on the line, Building Strong Communities is up next.
Thank you, Ashante. I'm also, I believe, Barry is also joining us, and he represents not only the ironworkers trade, but also is one of the leadership team of the Building Strong Communities, a joint building trade and council workforce effort designed to support exactly what we're all here for, but takes a longer term, block by block, to build that pool so that 20%, 30% goal can be reached. I'm going to really ask, in the interest of time, to allow for a more in-depth presentation next month, Ashante, before I turn it over to Barry. But I want to let everyone know that we are going to, next slide, we are going to have a 2021 cohort supported largely in part by 2 industry supporters. We have increased the number of trades that we will expose and prepare individuals to pursue an apprenticeship for. Most of these trades are present on the Southwest Light Rail. The video you will see next week profiles 3 of our graduates who also have begun work on the Southwest Light Rail project. Next slide. And this is what I will most likely follow up with is, in COVID times, the way to recruit and to get to the graduating cohort is going to require us to adapt to COVID. Very few printouts, pages are going to be shared person to person. It's going to require to drive people to this website as well as these information sessions, which are going to be happen 2-3 times a week from now until March. So you get a good group of women, people of color, prepared to pursue a career in one of the 12 participating trades. In the last 2 minutes or minute, I'll defer to Barry to plug in any holes that I miss in this short time. Doesn't look like he's able to respond, so Ashante, I'll turn it over to you with the hope that we can get some more time moving next month, including watching the video, which I don't believe we have time for.
Hey, Aaron.
Mr. Reeves, yes.
Aaron, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I think maybe I can't hear. Hello?
We can hear you,
Aaron.
We can
okay.
hear you.
Hey, is it possible you can blow up that ad? Because man, that's a great looking ad. I can see us. We can put that in the paper. That's an attractive ad. I don't know what the wording says, but now that's. I think that would get people's attention. Is there any way I can see this, or can we maybe talk offline? I'd like to see a big picture of this.
No, you'll receive this promotional piece driving people to these information sessions. That is a picture of an apprentice iron worker that Barry has can talk more about, a young female who went through our program during the summer. She's having a great time. A great picture. Yes.
No, I'm talking about. Yeah, I'm talking about the picture itself, Aaron. Yeah. The photo, the graphic, the you already have the 2. That's like perfect. That's what I'm talking about. Not the work necessarily, but what you've.
Of course. Yep.
What you photograph and ad, it kind of captures, I think, what we're trying to do. So I think you have my email address, right? Because we were talking about folks are supposed to get a hold of you anyway, and that fell through. But can you email this to me? Because I can get moving on this right away.
I will email you the final version, which should be available tomorrow.
Okay, great.
Thanks, Aaron, and we'll look forward to a more in-depth presentation next month. I just want to say thank you to everyone, committee members and the like. Very good conversation. I know that all of us are committed to the same goals, and we're all very passionate. I think that's what it takes. It takes passion. I appreciate that this is a forum that we can express ourselves and have those types of conversations and move the needle forward. So thank you to everyone. Thank you for your participation. Again, I apologize that we have to end early this month. We will get that worked out and ironed out for the next meeting. And we look forward to everyone returning next month. Salima, anything that you wanted to add before we adjourn? Salima still on?
Thank you so much, Ashante. Looking forward to seeing everybody in February.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Ashanti.